Harley-Davidson is in serious trouble, and it's not because of a new law, a dip in sales, or some social media scandal. It's because Honda just dropped a lineup of motorcycles that are cheaper, smarter, and flat out better than what Harley's been selling for decades. And this isn't just about one or two bikes. This is the beginning of something way bigger. Honda isn't here to compete with Harley. They're here to dismantle them piece by piece, rider by rider, and if Harley doesn't act fast, they might not survive what's coming. For over a century, Harley-Davidson has ruled the American motorcycle scene like a king sitting on a throne of chrome. The growl of a Milwaukee 8 engine, the silhouette of a road glide cruising down the highway, it's been more than a brand. It's been a symbol, a lifestyle, a rite of passage. But every empire falls, and if you've been paying attention, the cracks in Harley's kingdom are starting to show. Sales are down, younger riders are walking away, and longtime customers are growing frustrated with the rising prices, aging tech, and endless dealership fees. Now, most brands would love to swoop in and claim some of that market share, but Honda isn't here to compete. Honda's here to take over, quietly, methodically, and with a level of precision that only a company with Honda's engineering power and global reach could pull off. It started with one bike, the NT1100, a low-key sport touring machine that undercut Harley's touring lineup by thousands, while offering more features, better rideability, and the kind of reliability that would make any Harley mechanic nervous. Then came the reminder that the Goldwing still exists and still dominates when it comes to long-distance luxury touring. But this isn't just about two bikes. What we've witnessed is the beginning of a full-scale strategy shift. Honda is reshaping the way people think about touring motorcycles, and in doing so, they're undermining Harley's most profitable category. And they're not doing it with loud marketing or attitude-filled branding. They're doing it with quiet, unshakable confidence, the kind that comes from knowing your machines don't need to shout because they work. Harley's still trying to sell a dream, but Honda is delivering reality. In a moment, I'm going to break down exactly how Honda's positioning itself to dominate the touring motorcycle world. We'll dive deep into the bikes, the pricing, the culture shift, and the raw numbers behind this changing landscape. And by the end, you'll understand why more and more riders are turning away from Harley and heading straight into Honda's open arms. Because this isn't just a rivalry, this is a takeover. Honda didn't just drop a new bike. They basically walked straight into Harley-Davidson's living room, looked around and said, yeah, we can do this better, and for half the price. Let's start with a bike that's already shaking things up, the Honda NT1100 DCT. Now, this isn't some experimental concept or a niche overseas model. It's a fully loaded sport touring machine that just hit the US market after making waves across Europe. And here's the kicker, it's only $11,899. Yeah, you heard that right. Not 15 grand, not 28, 11. But don't think for a second that this is some stripped down beginner bike. Underneath that sleek fairing is the same 1084cc engine from the Africa Twin, which means you're getting about 101 horsepower and torque that kicks in exactly where you need it. It's smooth, responsive, and built for real-world riding, not just sitting around a bar looking shiny. And here's where Honda really starts showing off, the dual-clutch transmission. If you've never experienced a DCT before, imagine riding a touring bike that shifts smoother than anything you've ever felt. No clutch lever, no gear guessing. You can ride it in fully auto or tap through the gears manually with your fingers. It's fast, seamless, and honestly, it makes Harley's old-school gearboxes feel like typewriters. Now here's where things get a little embarrassing, because Honda isn't charging extra for all the goodies. The NT1100 comes with integrated panniers, cruise control, heated grips, a massive 6.5-inch touchscreen display with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, traction control, ABS, and even an adjustable windscreen. That's not the premium package, that's just standard. Now compare that to Harley's entry-level touring bikes. Let's say you walk into a dealership looking at a 2024 Road Glide or Street Glide. You're starting at nearly 28 grand, and that's before you even touch any accessories or tech packages. You're spending double and still getting nickel and dimed for basic features. The NT1100 feels like Honda saw the whole touring category, laughed, and said, let's give riders everything they actually need at a price that doesn't require a second mortgage. It's a full-on touring machine that doesn't care about flexing, it just performs, and that alone is pulling a lot of interest away from Harley. But Honda wasn't done there. They also reminded everyone that the Goldwing still exists, and it's still the king of luxury touring. This bike has been around for over 40 years, but it keeps evolving in a way that Harley just hasn't caught up with. The latest version? It starts at around 28.7. That's the same territory as Harley's high-end touring models like the Ultra Limited or the Road Glide Limited, but what you're getting with the Goldwing, it's not even close. We're talking a massive 1,833cc flat-six engine, not a V-twin, that cranks out 125 horsepower and 130 pound-feet of torque. It's unbelievably smooth, shockingly powerful, and runs so clean you'll think you're riding a luxury car on two wheels. And yup, it also uses DCT. No clutch, no drama, just smooth, clean acceleration every single time. The Goldwing doesn't just compete with Harley, it embarrasses it when it comes to tech and comfort. This thing has an electronically adjustable suspension, a premium sound system, voice command, full navigation, heated seats for both the rider and the passenger, smart key ignition, and even electronic trunk controls. You're not just getting a motorcycle here, you're basically piloting a two-wheeled spaceship. And unlike Harley, you don't have to go through a $1,000 upgrade list just to unlock basic comfort. Honda gives you the whole deal from the start. It's luxury without the markup. And let's be honest, when you talk to long-distance riders who've done real touring, not just weekend bar hops, most of them will tell you the Goldwing is the gold standard. It's reliable, powerful, and it'll outlast most riders if you treat it right. And here's the part Harley fans don't want to hear. Owning a Honda like the NT1100 or Goldwing is just easier. The maintenance is lower, the engines are built like tanks, and the service intervals won't bleed your wallet dry. While Harley still charges you premium rates for what feels like routine repairs, Honda owners are just out there riding, not worrying about their oil pump or whatever their primary drive is about to rattle loose. And if you zoom out for a second, this isn't just about 2 or 3 bikes, this is Honda making a statement. They're saying we see the hole in the touring market and we're going to fill it with better bikes, better engineering, and better pricing. Harley's problem isn't that they build bad bikes, it's that their bikes are built for a lifestyle that's getting harder and harder to afford. Meanwhile, Honda's offering that same thrill, that same adventure, that same cross-country magic without the weight of overpriced tradition. So if you've ever dreamed of riding across the country in comfort with modern features and bulletproof reliability, you don't have to spend 30 grand to do it anymore. You don't have to go Harley, not when Honda just showed us that a better way is already here. If Honda's touring lineup wasn't already putting pressure on Harley-Davidson, the Rebel series is where things start to get personal. This is where Honda walks right up to Harley's backyard, the cruiser segment, and pulls the rug out from under them in broad daylight. Let's start with the Rebel 500. This bike has been a game changer from day one. It looks the part with its blacked out styling and low slung stance. It feels the part with its relaxed ergonomics and laid back riding position. And it absolutely destroys Harley on value. At just under $7,000, it's one of the most affordable mid-sized cruisers on the market, yet it doesn't feel cheap. The engine is a liquid-cooled parallel twin that delivers smooth, predictable torque, and unlike Harley's beginner bike from years past, the Rebel doesn't punish you for being new. It's forgiving, fun, and ridiculously easy to handle. But Honda didn't stop there. They knew there was a gap between beginner bikes and full-size cruisers. That's where the Rebel 1100 comes in, and this one is a direct shot at Harley's softail and Sportster crowd. The Rebel 1100 takes everything Harley riders say they want, big engine, low profile, cruiser attitude, and wraps it in modern engineering and smart pricing. It comes in at just over $10,000, which is almost half the price of many Harley softail models. And get this, it comes with the same DCT system found in the Africa Twin and Goldwing. You can ride it as an automatic or switch into manual mode and use paddle shifters. No clutch, no stress, just smooth responsive power from a bulletproof 1084cc engine that cranks out around 87 horsepower and more than 70 pound-feet of torque. Now ask yourself, when was the last time Harley offered that kind of technology on a cruiser? Honda's making riding easier, faster, and more comfortable, while Harley's still hanging on to the same air-cooled formulas they've been recycling for years. And the best part? The Rebel 1100 comes standard with cruise control, selectable ride modes, and optional ABS. You're getting modern tech, low maintenance, and real-world practicality, all without the premium Harley markup. You don't have to spend thousands more just to get the features you actually want. But it's not just the bikes themselves, it's who they're built for. The Rebel lineup isn't trying to sell you a lifestyle, it's inviting everyone to the table. New riders, urban riders, female riders, shorter riders, younger riders. Riders who care more about riding than impressing people at the next parking lot meetup. Honda took the exclusivity out of the cruiser game and made it feel fresh again. And now, Harley's left with a serious problem. Their cheapest bikes have been disappearing from the lineup. The Street 500 and 750 are long gone. The Iron 883 is overpriced and outdated, and the Sportster S, while a step forward, starts at $15,000 and doesn't come close to the practicality of the Rebel 1100. So while Harley is scrambling to reinvent its cruiser lineup, Honda has already built one that works, and it works for everybody. Now, while the NT1100 and Rebel lineup is already stirring the pot, the bigger picture starts to make a lot more sense when you step back and look at what Harley's doing across the entire market. This isn't just about 1 or 2 motorcycles, it's about an entire shift in strategy that directly threatens Harley-Davidson's core territory. Because for the first time in a long time, a brand is stepping in with real alternatives that are not only cheaper and more reliable, but also smarter and more inclusive for today's riders. Let's be honest here, Harley-Davidson has built an empire around the idea of exclusivity. Their bikes are expensive, the image is tightly controlled, and the culture revolves around being part of something elite. But Honda's going the other way entirely. They're making bikes that invite you in. No ego, no gatekeeping, just pure riding experience, whether you're a seasoned tourer or someone just looking to break into the scene. This is especially important now because Harley is currently in a pretty tight spot. Sales are down. According to recent figures, they saw an 11% revenue drop in 2024 alone. In the last quarter of that year, motorcycle shipments dropped by more than half. That's not a small dip, that's a serious red flag. And while Harley executives are putting a brave face on it by rolling out upgraded 2025 models like the Pan America 1250 ST and a more refined Street Glide Ultra, there's one problem they haven't solved: the pricing. Harley's still pushing models that start at $28,000 or more, and that's before you even begin adding accessories. In fact, if you walk into a dealership and try to buy a fully loaded touring Harley, you're walking out with a price tag well over $35,000. For many riders, that's not just expensive, that's out of reach. And that's where Honda is absolutely killing it right now, because while Harley is chasing profit margins and clinging to a luxury image, Honda is offering something that actually fits the current rider climate. People want value, they want dependability, they want bikes they can actually afford without sacrificing quality or features. Honda delivers on all of that, and they're doing it in a way that feels effortless. And it's not just the NT1100 and Goldwing. Look at Honda's overall approach. They've got bikes for every level, from beginner-friendly models like the CB500X and NC750X, all the way to high-performing tourers. Every bike is designed with a purpose and built around real usability, not just flashy marketing. They're engineered to be ridden hard, maintained easily, and kept for the long haul. No fluff, no bloat, just solid machines that do exactly what they promise. And here's where things really start to shift. While Harley continues to shrink its entry-level lineup by pulling out of certain markets, discontinuing popular models, and focusing more on heavyweight cruisers, Honda is expanding in the exact opposite direction. They're welcoming in newer riders, younger riders, and international buyers with bikes that are easy to learn on and even easier to own. This matters a lot more than people think. Because if you look at the next generation of riders, many of them are not chasing chrome and V-twin nostalgia. They want tech, they want performance, they want comfort. And most importantly, they want something that won't break their bank every time they need an oil change or a new tire. Honda knows this, they've studied it, and now they're acting on it while Harley is still clinging to the same formula that worked 20 years ago. Even Harley fans are starting to notice. Scroll through the forums or the YouTube comment section under Harley's 2025 model reveal videos and you'll see the same patterns. People are complaining about the price. They're frustrated with hidden dealer fees, with premium models being stripped of features unless you pay thousands more. And many are openly asking the question, why not just buy a Goldwing? And that's a question Harley cannot afford to ignore much longer, because every time a rider walks past a Harley showroom and decides to test ride an NT1100 or a Goldwing instead, Harley loses more than just a sale. They lose cultural ground. They lose their grip on a market they once owned. The truth is, Honda isn't just trying to compete anymore, they're positioning themselves to dominate. They've figured out that riders want more than just a nameplate on the tank. They want a bike that works for their life, not against it. They want smooth power, low maintenance, advanced tech, and comfort that doesn't punish them after 400 miles. And Honda's delivering all of that right now, while Harley is still trying to justify why their base model doesn't come with standard saddlebags. In many ways, Honda's doing what Harley used to do back in the day, building machines that are accessible, bulletproof, and built to ride. They're pulling from their racing experience, their adventure heritage, and their world-class engineering to give riders something truly dependable. And they're doing it without pretending that you need to buy into some exclusive club just to enjoy it. And when people say Honda might take Harley's market share, it's not some wild prediction, it's already happening. The bikes are better, the pricing is smarter, the lineup is more complete, and the strategy is a direct hit to Harley's soft underbelly, the casual riders, the newcomers, and the veterans who are tired of paying premium money for underwhelming performance. If Honda keeps pushing like this, they're not just going to compete with Harley, they're going to rewrite the rules of what a touring motorcycle should be. And Harley, they can either adapt fast or watch their dominance slip away one rider at a time. Now let's talk about what's coming next, because while Harley's been trying to patch up the holes with new model names and upgraded fairings, Honda's playing a much deeper game. They're not just releasing a few great bikes and hoping people notice, they're laying out a long-term strategy that's quietly pushing them into Harley's turf and staying there. You can already see how this plays out in the real world. When a rider walks into a dealership today looking for a touring bike, the conversation feels different from what it did 5 or 10 years ago. Back then, it was all about the name. The Harley badge meant something, and for a lot of people, that was enough. But now, riders are comparing everything. They're checking spec sheets, they're asking about maintenance intervals, they're looking up ride reviews and watching head-to-head tests online. The myth has faded, and the reality is starting to sink in. Here's the reality. Honda's winning those comparisons, and they're not even bragging about it. The NT1100 is already undercutting Harley by nearly $15,000, and it still has more tech and better daily usability. The Goldwing continues to be the most refined long-haul motorcycle on the planet, and most riders who switch over from Harley say they'll never go back. You don't hear that often, the other way around. But it's not just the pricing or the gadgets. What's really giving Honda the edge is reliability. It's that quiet confidence you get when you throw a leg over one of their bikes, knowing that it's not going to strand you 200 miles from home with a weird noise and a $2,000 service bill. Honda bikes are engineered to be ridden hard and maintained easily. Ask anyone who's owned a Goldwing, they'll tell you those bikes go 200,000 miles without even blinking. And when you compare that to Harley's ongoing problems, well, it's not even close. You've got Harley forums full of riders complaining about oil leaks, dealer setup fees, electrical gremlins, and questionable quality control. You've got service appointments being pushed out for weeks because the dealer's understaffed and overbooked. And you've got owners spending 2 or 3 times more on maintenance over the lifespan of the bike. All of that adds up, and for the average rider who actually wants to ride instead of a tinker, that's a big red flag. What makes this even more dangerous for Harley is how Honda's positioning itself across the board. They're not just targeting seasoned touring veterans, they're drawing in the next generation. Think about it, a new rider looking to get into touring isn't going to drop $30,000 on their first big bike, but they will take a serious look at an NT1100 or even a slightly older Goldwing, especially when they find out those bikes will run for decades with minimal headaches. And this is the silent shift happening in real time. Honda's quietly taking over the bottom of the funnel. They're winning over younger riders, newer riders, and returning riders who don't want the baggage that comes with Harley ownership. These riders might start on a CB500X or an NC750X, but guess where they end up 5 years later? That's right, on a Goldwing, on an NT1100, maybe even on a new Africa Twin with touring upgrades. Either way, they're staying in Honda's ecosystem, not Harley's. Meanwhile, Harley has backed itself into a corner. Their strategy relies heavily on loyalists, people who've been with the brand for years and are willing to pay top dollar for the badge. But here's the hard truth, that customer base is shrinking. A lot of them are aging out of the market. The younger riders, they're not lining up for a V-twin with push rods and a price tag that looks like a Tesla down payment. Even in international markets, the gap is widening. Honda has a global footprint. Their bikes are sold and supported almost everywhere. Their engineering meets global emissions standards, their pricing adapts to local economies, and their lineup covers everything from scooters to full-dress tourers. Harley, on the other hand, has struggled to maintain a consistent international presence. When they do push into new regions, it's usually with premium models that are priced way out of reach for the average rider, and it shows. Let's not forget what's happening in places like Europe and Asia. In the European Union, strict emissions regulations have already forced Harley to pull certain models or make expensive adjustments just to stay legal. Honda, they're already ahead of the curve. Their engines are clean, efficient, and compliant, and they're still delivering strong performance without cheating the numbers. So when we ask the question, can Honda really take over Harley's market share? We're already halfway to the answer. It's not about whether Honda can, it's about how fast they will. Because right now, the shift is already happening. Harley's still playing defense, stuck between honoring tradition and trying to modernize without alienating their base. Honda is on offense, building bikes that solve real problems, reach more riders, and offer better long-term ownership. And that kind of strategy doesn't just steal customers, it changes the game. At the heart of all this, we're not just talking about specs, pricing, or even reliability anymore. We're talking about something bigger, something deeper. This is about culture, identity, what it means to be a motorcycle rider today, and how that meaning is shifting right under Harley-Davidson's feet. For decades, Harley wasn't just a motorcycle brand, it was a lifestyle, a symbol of rebellion, freedom, and American grit. If you rode a Harley, you didn't just ride, you belonged. You were part of a brotherhood, you wore the patches, you nodded at other Harley riders at gas stations, and you defended the brand like it was tattooed on your soul. But fast forward to now, and that image isn't hitting the same way. The world has changed, the riders have changed, and the idea that you need to spend 30 grand to prove your loyalty to some chrome-plated ideal, that doesn't sit well with today's generation of riders. People want independence, sure, but they also want practicality. They want smart design. They want a bike that matches their lifestyle, not one they have to rearrange their whole life to afford or maintain. And this is where Honda's entire philosophy feels so relevant. They're not selling an identity. They're not asking you to pledge allegiance to a culture. They're giving you tools to go out and create your own adventure. Whether you're a daily commuter, a weekend canyon carver, or a long-distance touring nut, there's a Honda that fits you, and more importantly, you don't have to prove anything to ride one. That openness, that freedom from branding pressure, it resonates with people, especially the younger crowd. Look at Gen Z and millennials, they're riding more than ever, but they're not buying into the old school Harley narrative. They care about reliability, about tech integration, about sustainability, about getting real value for their money. Honda offers all of that, and they're doing it without demanding that you shave your head, grow a beard, or wear a leather vest to feel included. And honestly, that shift is starting to show up everywhere. You see it on YouTube channels, Reddit threads, and local group rides. The guys showing up on Africa Twins, NC750Xs, NT1100s, they're just riders. No posturing, no branding wars. They're there for the ride. And ironically, that mindset is now being lived more fully by Honda riders than Harley riders themselves. Even Harley's own community is starting to fracture a bit. Some loyalists are growing tired of the high prices, the limited innovation, and the constant push to upgrade. You see posts from owners asking, why am I paying premium prices for features that other brands include as standard? Or why is my new Harley already in the shop again while my buddy's Goldwing just hit 80,000 miles with zero issues? It's a tough pill to swallow, especially for those who've built their whole riding identity around that bar and shield logo. But the truth is, brand loyalty only goes so far when the product stops delivering what riders actually need. And Harley's biggest problem right now isn't competition, it's perception. The world is starting to see the brand. Less as a badge of freedom and more as a badge of expense. The question used to be, can you afford a Harley? Now it's turning into, why would you? That's a dangerous shift, because once the culture turns, once riders start associating Harley with high costs, frustrating maintenance, and outdated tech, it's very hard to get that image back. Especially when the alternative is a company like Honda that quietly, confidently delivers everything riders want and more. So this isn't just about Honda delivering better bikes, it's about them building better relationships with riders, and in a world where connection, trust, and authenticity matter more than ever, that's a huge advantage. Honda isn't just selling motorcycles, they're becoming the brand that listens, the brand that adapts, the brand that actually understands what riders want in 2025, not what they wanted in 1985. So where does all this leave Harley-Davidson? Well, here's the brutal truth, and I'm not saying this to disrespect the brand or its legacy, but unless Harley changes course fast, they're on the edge of being outclassed, not just in specs or price, but in purpose. What used to be a brand rooted in freedom and accessibility has slowly become the symbol of excess, of outdated thinking, of a lifestyle that no longer connects with the modern rider. Meanwhile, Honda is over here doing something completely different. They're not just copying Harley, they're not trying to be louder or flashier or more rebellious. They're reshaping the entire conversation about what it means to ride, what it means to tour, what it means to own a motorcycle in 2025. They've already figured out what riders actually care about, and it's not status. It's not having the loudest pipes or the biggest front wheel. It's not about being part of some exclusive club where you have to buy in with your wallet before you can earn any respect. It's about the ride itself. Honda gets that. They've engineered it into every bolt of the NT1100, into every detail of the Goldwing, into the service intervals, the DCT system, the ease of ownership, and the way their bikes work with you instead of against you. And here's what makes it even more dangerous for Harley. Honda isn't pushing this with million-dollar ad campaigns or flashy influencer deals, they're letting the bikes do the talking. Because when a rider test rides a Rebel, Goldwing, or an NT1100 and realizes it shifts smoother, rides better, and costs half as much as the Harley they were considering, that's all it takes. One ride, and the myth starts to crack. Harley's business model has always relied on the idea that their way was the only way, that if you didn't ride a Harley, you weren't a real biker. But in today's world, that kind of thinking just doesn't work anymore. Riders want options, they want transparency, they want something that feels like it was built for them, not for the guy in a showroom 30 years ago. And what's worse is that Harley keeps trying to catch up by tweaking the edges. A slightly updated fairing, a new limited edition paint scheme, a digital display here and there, but none of that addresses the deeper problem, because no matter how many screens or tech packages you add, if your bikes are still priced like luxury cars and require dealer visits every few thousand miles, riders are going to start looking elsewhere, and they already are. Honda, on the other hand, is planting seeds. They're getting new riders in early with smarter, smaller bikes. They're giving them affordable ways to upgrade, and when those riders are ready for serious touring, Honda already has the answer waiting. And here's the real kicker. Honda doesn't need to beat Harley head-to-head on every single model. All they have to do is keep being the smarter choice. And as more riders figure that out, Harley's grip on the market gets looser by the day. This isn't just a brand rivalry anymore, it's a generational shift, and if Harley doesn't respond, if they keep chasing legacy instead of adapting to the present, they're going to find themselves remembered more for what they used to be than what they are now. So if you've been thinking about getting into touring, if you've been eyeing that big Harley for years and saving up, you need to hear this. There's a better option now. A quieter, smarter, more refined option, one that costs less, rides smoother, lasts longer, and gives you more for every dollar you spend. Honda isn't playing catch-up anymore, they're in the lead. The NT1100 is proof that you don't need to drop 30 grand to get a serious touring machine. The Goldwing is proof that full-size luxury doesn't have to come with maintenance headaches. The Rebel 500 is proof that cruisers can be lightweight and affordable, and Honda's entire approach is proof that motorcycles should serve the rider, not the brand. Harley will always have its place in history. No one's taking that away. But what's happening right now isn't about history, it's about the future. And whether Harley likes it or not, Honda just stole the spotlight. If you're a rider looking for comfort, performance, reliability, and value, you owe it to yourself to test ride what Honda is offering right now. Because once you do, you might start asking the same question a lot of others already have. Why was I even considering a Harley in the first place? If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. See you in the next one.